Welcome everyone to the episode of the Ol'Timers Comic Book Show. I'm your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and joining me, as always, we have the Professor. How's it going?
Hey Johnny, how are you?
I am very, very well. Very, very well. As those observant of you will notice, we are down a person. 13th is currently on his sick bed. He's ill. The problem is he only had 12 shots for COVID vaccine. Should have got that 13th.
Yeah.
Never mind. So best wishes to 13. Hope you feel better soon, buddy. Show's not the same without you, dude. In honor of that, we were going to start off with 13's books first. Before we get into that, the theme for this week is retro ret-cons.
Yeah, for sure.
Now there's a fair few. There's some absolute corker famous ones, some of which don't always fit within the constraints of our show. Bearing in mind we're here for older books. So what we'll do, as always, we always kind of cast our mind back to a couple that didn't make the grade for whatever reason.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with Jason Todd twice, not once, but twice.
That's a good shot.
Yeah. So first off, we all know that he's a replacement Dick Grayson. Back in Detective Comics, there's a whole circus thing. His parents get killed. You know, not saying carbon copy, but carbon copy. And that gets retro to him stealing the hubcaps off the Batmobile.
Yep.
as you do. And then not only that, his return from the dead has been retconned. 1 minute he's getting punched back into existence with Superboy Prime punching the universe in Infinite Crisis, and the next it's a Lazarus Pit thing. So, you know, Jason Todd, I mean, how many retcons can one guy have, right?
It's one of those things, you know, there are good retcons, something like story necessary, right? If you want to have that character. But then there are just bad ones, and it's Jason Todd has had a couple of each, and that's one of the things that drive me nuts sometimes about the retcons, because it gives the retcon a bad reputation, you know, where there are some good retcons and some that, you know, you just jump into the story and it's a good explanation for whatever character that you're trying to maybe fix, right? Some of them are trying to get fixed, and some of them are trying to introduce new characters into the mythos. And you know, there's a couple. I'm going to bring up one, and the reason I didn't pick him is because he doesn't fit in the time frame.
Good shout.
Sentry.
Oh, good call.
Right?
Good call.
Sentry retconned the whole Marvel universe, didn't he? when you think of it, because Sentry has a huge backstory where he was a hero in the birth of the Silver Age Marvel universe with the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, and had adventures with them, and then supposedly everybody got mind wiped, so nobody remembers that Sentry was around. You know, so I thought that was actually a new inventive take, you know, which is the reason why I didn't pick Sentry. The other one I wanted to shout out that we didn't do, and we could have easily done, is Hawkman.
Hawkman. Oh man, see, we could have done Hawkman. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But that had taken like a whole episode just on him.
You need a map. You need like a map. And you know, anybody in the X-Men, Cyclops has had so many different retcons. Cable. You know, it's so many of them, but you know, I think we picked a few good ones.
Yeah. Well, I think mine's a bit of a stinker, to be fair. But one of the ones that I think there's done, I'm not even sure if you can call it a retcon, particularly per se, but Jessica Jones. I think how she came in as a new character and then was retroactively added into Avengers.
Yes.
I think that worked really well for that character.
And she was Gem, a hero named Gem.
Was it Gem or Jewel? I thought it was
Jewel. Jewel. Yeah, maybe Jewel. Okay, Jewel.
Yeah.
Jewel.
So I kind of think that one kind of worked for what it was, because it had to be done to show the contrast between her as a, you know, goody superhero versus the trauma that she goes through that turns her into a a badass, hard drinking nut job. I'm not only saying that. I love Jessica Jones,
And then
so,
she's not in the timeline either, I don't think.
no. So exactly.
So
I think who else? So I think in the Hawkman was a good shout. Definitely. I suppose you could put some Doctor Fate in there as well if you wanted to, but yeah. Right. Yeah, we're going with probably. You know what? This character, I think this character is to blame for the idea that heroes don't die.
absolutely.
All right.
This was the original argument for not bringing back dead characters or ruining a story that had already been written. Right.
Right.
That's where you get the idea of like a bad retcon, because this retcon undid probably the greatest story ever told in Marvel.
Definitely. Right? Definitely the best X-Men story, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
I don't think the X-Men actually recovered from this story, you know. And of course, if you have no idea what we're talking about, bingo, there you go. This is Fantastic Four number 286. This is actually the second part of a two-part story that leads to the creation of X Factor. The first part is in Avengers. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's 26 something.
263.
263. Yeah. So this is written by John Byrne, although there is a bit of Chris Claremont in there for good measure, just cause. And I'm sure we'll talk about the controversy amongst that.
Yes.
Art by John Byrne, inks by Terry Austin, colors by Glynis Oliver, letters by John Workman. There is a special shout out to Kurt Busiek and Roger Stern. And I'm not quite sure. I can't remember who the guest artist is that pulls. Is it Jackson Goose? Whatever.
Oh, I can't. I
can't remember. Can't remember who pulls in the guest art for this. So let us have a look into this book then. For our resident Marvel head, what's the deal with this book? And why did 13th pick it?
Oh, well, of course, the reason 13 picked it is because at the end of this story, Jean Grey's back. And this John Byrne, I think, does a good job at explaining exactly how. And I think it's a very adept bit of retconning, if I do say so myself. You know, everybody knows that. Well, everybody that reads comics knows the story of Phoenix. They had a fight against the Sentinels. They were on the ship back to Earth, and the pilots, the controls went out. They were going to die, and Jean Grey takes over the ship, knocks everybody out. She crashes into Jamaica Bay in New York City, and everybody survives except they can't find Jean. And then who should burst through the water but Jean Grey reborn as Phoenix? And that begins this whole storyline, long-running storyline in X-Men, where eventually she becomes Dark Phoenix, attempts to destroy the universe, but at the last second sacrifices herself to save the universe and the X-Men through her love of Scott. Summers Cyclops. And then of course you remember the controversy of what we were going to talk about, that Claremont and Byrne were originally not going to kill Jean off.
Yeah, that's right.
And Jim Shooter and his wisdom, I think, said, we can't. There has to be some kind of ramification. She destroyed a universe full of, or she's destroyed a star, killing trillions of life forms. There has to be some kind of payback for that, and ended up making that edict that Jean Grey has to be sacrificed.
I think for me that is an absolute fantastic spot by Shooter. I know a lot of people he has his detractors, people, and reading the books that you and I have both read, we can see how, people can get a little bit take over Ted and they can sweat the details and that. But up to that point, I think turning around and saying, Jean Grey has to be killed absolutely totally changes the tone of the
Yeah.
Dark Phoenix saga, as well as for quite some time the X-Men.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Cyclops leaves for quite a
Uh-huh.
while after this, and Wolverine goes through. I think Wolverine had the more redemptive story arc. Up till that point, he'd kind of been a bit savage, and his love for Jean made I think helped make him more of the fan favorite that he ended up being after this. And he was already a fan favorite, let's be honest. But I think this kind of humanized him a little bit. Um, and made him even more of a likable type character. And then of course they didn't bring Jean back for a good 5 or 6 years, yeah.
Easy, yeah.
So and like they of course over in X-Men, Cyclops gets remarried to a lookalike, which of course this opens up a whole big can of worms over there.
Gotta
and,
love
and
Madeline Pryor. Gotta love
good
Madeline Pryor.
good luck. I've always said with the Scott Summers Jean Grey relationship, everybody needed a kind of a roadmap, and it was very, very convoluted, and you really needed to be a fan of comics to even try to even begin to understand everything.
I've got to put my hand up. I absolutely loved Madeline Pryor. I thought she was
Sure.
great,
Yep.
and don't get me wrong, it helps she turns into the Goblin Queen at some point. But that's more an aesthetic thing than the other thing. But I mean, even then, she's not written like a shrieking harpy. She tries to have a relationship with Alex Summers. That goes down the Swanee. You find out she's going to get manipulated by Sinister after the Inferno stuff. And you think, in a lot of ways, I find Madeline more interesting than Jean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I kind of think after they reintroduce her here, they kind of drop the ball. She just kind of gets plugged into X Factor, and she's back, and they never really. I don't think they spent a lot of time not building up on that. It was just like, okay, she's back, oh hum. And I don't think Louise Simonson or Walt Simonson over in X Factor really did anything. It was like, okay, the original five are back, and that's it. But this story, this was one of the biggest stories of, what was it, like 1986?
I've got some stats for you. This is actually January 1986. You can pick up this book for as little as 99 pence to £12 in the UK, but a
Really?
9.6 in the States will cost you $55. I have this book.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too. I have the actual flippy floppy. It's see, it's probably over there, third shelf down. There you go. Yeah. So okay.
Hey, it's part of the John Byrne run of Fantastic Four, which is after Lee and Kirby the second best run on a Fantastic Four. So
I can't remember because I'll have to check. I'd have to go and check to make sure. But I've got the Avengers issue as well that goes with this. So I don't think I know I've put them back to back and together, so that I read the whole thing separate, like together once I pick the book out. So I don't know if I've actually put it up there with the A's. I'll have to go dig it out. But yeah.
Well, it was a good shout to not review the Avengers issue, but because it was really kind of just looked like it was the Enclave and the pod she was in originally looked like it was Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
And then they kind of swerved you a little bit,
yeah.
But they retell that what's going on in the first couple of pages, and so you didn't really need to read that Avengers issue anyway. And this was by far the more interesting chapter of that story. But this was just a ploy to get Jean Grey back so that they could launch X Factor with the original 5 X-Men.
Cool.
And, one of the retros, I totally understand both sides of the argument, because on one side it kind of took off the emotional impact of the Phoenix Saga and X-Men, because it ruins the end of the story. So if you go back and if you can read Phoenix Saga now and still kind of get the emotional impact of it, but she comes back at some point, so it kind of like ruins the gravitas, I think, of the moment. But on the flip side, I was was kind of glad that she was back with the X-Men,
Yeah.
and she's been one of the stalwart characters over there since then. So
Yeah. Okay. Good shout. The art for this book, this book has some controversy in the fact that it's credited as John Byrne, but John Byrne doesn't pull the last few pages. The whole comeback of Jean coming back is a guest artist at the behest of Chris Claremont, who wanted to redo the story over again. At least according to Marvel's story, the book that we both have.
sure.
And you can tell that this bit here is not John Byrne. It's very much a facsimile of. What I will say is that for a book in the 80s, there is an absolute ton of reading in this book.
Uh-huh.
There is not a single panel that does not have at least 3 pages worth of dialogue in it each time.
Well,
The other thing I'd say is, she comes out of the cocoon in the ripped ball gown, and it's a nice ball gown. Don't get me wrong, but for Christ's sake, get the girl some clothes at some point, please. Come on.
they let her run around with that for the whole issue.
Yeah,
The tattered dress.
yeah. Well, it's John Byrne. So it's John Byrne doing Fantastic Four, and you're absolutely right. John Byrne on the Fantastic Four was probably, from a creative point of view, there'll be a whole bunch of people who will love Byrne on Fantastic Four more than they enjoy him on X-Men, because he gets to pull the whole thing on this one. For me, the art, it's John Byrne. It's fine. The story reads well. And on a side note, isn't it being said that a fan sold John Byrne this story at a convention, gave him the idea of how Jean Grey could come back?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it is. If you check out
where did you hear that?
Well, there's that book that we both have, the Marvel story.
I need to reread it. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was at a convention and someone sold him a story, an idea that how Jean Grey could come back if they wanted to bring Jean Grey back. But on the flip note, on the more positive note, I will say I actually love X Factor, the first run.
Yeah,
I absolutely thought that was class. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought it was, everyone talks about X Factor 24, 25, 26 when Archangel pops up. But no, I like the work. I like the Bob Layton stuff. I like the Jackson Geist stuff. I like the Simonson stuff after that. Well,
the original idea for X Factor was that they were masquerading as mutant hunters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the whole gimmick of the book for the first little bit there.
Yeah.
So they were acting as mutant hunters, but then secretly, saving the mutants and recruiting them into, whatever they were doing.
Yeah, and the bad guys, Freedom Force, were really the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So there you go.
Right.
So, and you know what? I think that's a good shout for that book. Yeah, definitely. Check it out. I mean, it isn't an expensive book, and if you love Jean Grey, then really you should be picking the book up because it is a huge part of who she is. Of course, nowadays in Krakoa, you don't need any cocoons. You've just got the Resurrection Chamber. But that's
just bring them back. Death doesn't mean anything in the X-Men anymore.
That's just a whole bunch of kablooey. And it's funny because as soon as Jean Grey died and came back, that kind of opened up the floodgates for a whole host of.
For sure. Everybody, you could bring back anybody after Jean Grey did back.
And I think it used to be the line, isn't it? You could say that everyone comes back from the dead apart from Jason Todd and Bucky.
Yeah, or it was Uncle Ben and Bucky, right?
And Uncle Ben, and out of those three,
just Uncle Ben's still dead.
Yeah, Uncle Ben. Yeah, that's it. But hey ho. Right. Okay, it's your turn. Your choice. Here we go.
Yeah.
So you were wanting to go with a book we'd already covered, an Avengers book.
Yeah, and
and
yeah,
13th kind of pointed
yeah.
out where we
So
stand
I
about
picked a random issue
Oh, is
of
it random? Is it random?
it's actually the final part of this story is Captain America number 156, where
Okay.
they bring back the 50s cap. This is for me. This is the biggest retcon up to this point, I think.
All right. Okay. So
Um,
let's get some stats out of the way, and then we can get into as to why it is the biggest one.
yeah.
So this is written by Steve Englehart, who we've both met,
Yes.
although me just on pods. Art by one of my favorite Marvel artists of all time, Sal Buscema. Inks by Frank McLaughlin. Letters by Sam Rosen. All right, UK price, £10 to £25, depending on grade. It's all right, isn't it?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Go Collect has this as an. I couldn't find the price on Go Collect actually, so I had to use the eBay version, the American version of eBay, and I found an average price of $230. Wow,
That's not bad for a book like this.
wow.
Yeah. This is like the final part of this storyline. There's nothing really huge that happens. It's kind of a fight issue.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money for a fight issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the real deal? Who's the
Yes.
real one? Oh no! Oh, I'm getting endgame flashbacks. Oh no!
So have you flipped through this book?
I have flipped through this book.
It's very easy to tell who's who in this book because in the previous storyline, Captain America Steve Rogers was on vacation with Sharon Carter in the Caribbean, and they both got sunburns. So throughout this issue, Steve is a different shade of red. So the real Captain America is a different shade of red.
Oh my good God!
If you can even see it, panel 2,
Yeah.
that's Steve.
Yeah,
Panel 3,
yeah.
that's
I see it.
the fake Steve. So the reason that I picked this book and wanted to talk about as far as retconning goes is the whole Golden Age, Silver Age argument with Captain America.
Good shout.
So the original Captain America, not Lee and Kirby. This is Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. They wrote Captain America. Well, they did only the first 10 issues, and then they left and were replaced for the rest of the 40s by other creators. But Stan Lee, when Stan brought back Captain America in the pages of Avengers number 4, he kind of skipped some major details that the Captain America actually was published post World War II to around, I want to say, like 1956. And that, so now those issues, according to Stan and Jack, really didn't exist anymore, right? Because you had Steve getting caught in the iceberg at the end of the war and then resurrected 20 years later in Avengers. So of course that stuck in the craw of a lot of readers who were like, so what happened in the 50s with Commie Smasher Cap, right?
That's what I call it. Yeah. Commie Smasher.
I mean, and he fought the communists because the Nazis had been defeated. So who was the big enemy for Captain America in the 50s? Was the communists. So that's who he fought. And of course, and I think this was genius. Steve Englehart brings back the 1950s cap when it explains to us readers that Captain America and Bucky were actually recruited by the United States government to be the face of America in the 50s, which they were, and then they put them back in suspended animation. And I think that this story also has roots in Ed Brubaker's Winter Soldier story as far as keeping Bucky in suspended animation that time and kind of bringing him back whenever they kind of wanted someone killed. But this one, I think, it's legit because it's an easily you buy it, right? I was like, okay, so this is the Commie Smasher Cap. You see him using a gun in this. You see Bucky. The big thing on this is now and Steve Englehart must have thought he was being so progressive in this book, where they look back on the 50s and see how racist that we were as a society, maybe because we have Bucky, using derogatory language against Falcon for black, using language against Sharon Carter for being a woman, being very very bigoted and racist. And that's kind of where everybody gets the evil Cap, and that they had him go insane because Captain America actually, when they recruited him in the 50s, this one, the fake one, in the 50s, he wanted to be Captain America to uphold the ideals of the original Captain America, Steve Rogers. And then they get to the point where he believes Steve Rogers is a fake until at the end of this issue, when he realizes that this is the original Cap, and it drives him insane because he doesn't like. He was like, I should be worshiping this guy, and here I am fighting him. And it's an interesting story, and they do bring him back later for another storyline. But I liked this issue because it was their original exposure to this whole story, and the idea that there was two Captain Americas, and that was super interesting to the point. And later on in the Invaders, they do have another Captain America, the Patriot, becomes Captain America later, at post World War II, and pre Commie Cap. So
it's convoluted. As you thought. But you also got to think some of this actually bears witness now because they redid it again. The whole replacement Cap with US Agent, of course, massive part of the whole Falcon Winter Soldier storyline was US Agent in there. Sal Buscema's art looks great. It is.
Yes. Nothing says 70s Marvel like Sal Buscema art, does it?
I love Sal. Again, it's wordy in places, which I quite liked. I like the fact that it's a bit of an event trying to read it. Commie Smasher. So a lot of people think Stan Lee created Captain America, and that's even comic book people, because when I've turned around in the past and I've corrected people, they've said, "Oh well, he brought him back in Avengers, so therefore it makes he's the one who had the most impact." I'm like, well, it isn't quite like that, because you could then say that Claremont had more impact on Wolverine than Len Wein, who created him. So, which one are you going to go with? I like original Cap. I think original Cap is class. I like the whole idea of what he stands for. The thing that makes me laugh about Captain America isn't the pastiche moral values or the solid core or anything like that people normally sort of like have a pop at him about. It's the fact that he's supposed to be the only one, right? He's supposed to be the only super soldier, and he's the only one who's got an adamantium vibranium shield. And yet, how many knockoff Caps are there?
Oh, there's
tons. There's tons, absolute tons. And I think that has a massive impact on some of the things that we say, because you've got to think for all the fact that you've got all those Caps, and everything is super. You want to be the unique one. The truth of the matter is, you've got a whole host of people who've taken super soldier serums, and so by virtue, I suppose it adds that element that it's not Cap that makes Cap; it's Steve Rogers that makes Cap. So
I fully agree with that, John.
Yeah.
I think it's Steve Rogers in the in the suit.
Yeah.
And when it's Steve and when it's someone else.
Yeah, cool. I think that was absolutely done brilliantly in the movie. And as much as I love, and anyone knows it, as much as I love the Dark Knight trilogy, the Winter Soldier, man, the Winter Soldier movie, pretty much. That's on my second all-time greatest superhero movie, and that's how much of a DC fan. I'm a DC fan. So
I think it's because it's not a superhero movie. At the end of the day,
it's a spy movie.
It is. It's not. Yeah. It stands up with any action movie that you want to think of in the last 40 years.
Yeah.
You can take superhero movies out of the equation. I think it stands up with any movie.
I think you could say that. I know some people will say that about Dark Knight being just heat, but hey ho, there we go.
Dark Knight is great too.
Well, it is, but it doesn't know how to end for me. There's too many endings in it, but that's by the by. We'll talk about that another time. All right, okay, 2 down.
2 down.
One left. Well, 1.5. You'll see when I get there. All right, time then. We've had 2 Marvel books, so it seems to me only fair that our advert reflects this show. Here we are. It's the No Prize Podcast.
Yay!
There you go. No Prize Podcast available every other Wednesday. No, Tuesday. Every other Tuesday. Apologies. That means by the time you're watching this, the most recent MPP's already been out. So once you've done here, go back, check it out.
Do it.
There's a guest star on there.
Yeah.
A handsome fellow he is, but hey ho.
And
if you want to keep, if Marvel's your thing, keep an eye out for an OTP dropping later this week, as a certain someone will be interviewing Carla Pacheco of Spider-Woman and X-Men fame. There you go.
Oh my goodness! Did you fanboy all over her?
Not yet.
Oh.
But you know, I'm just saying. At this time we're recording, you know, I'm still bitter and twisted to cancel Spider-Woman again. So you know,
you're gonna have to see if you can get the inside dirt on that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Go and check it out outside the panels. You'll find it.
Oh, I'm gonna check it out.
Right. Okay. So this is a bit of a twofer. You're going to get from me. This is my choice. I was very tempted to go the Jason Todd route, or route, as my colonialized friends would say. We are going with instead someone who is equally convoluted. I think we've looked at this book previously as well, but it's All Star Comics number 58, and this is written by Jerry Conway. Arts by Rick Estrada and Wally Woods. Ben Order is on letters, I believe. Now, the reason I picked this is the Ret-con element. So this is the first appearance of Power Girl.
Yep.
We've noticed Power Girl, as you succinctly put earlier in the message, is Earth 2 Supergirl, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need to know.
That's all I knew.
Yeah, it is all you need to know. Kara Zor-El of Earth 2, very similar to Earth 1 Supergirl, gets in a rocket ship and comes to save Kal-El from living on Earth. Of course.
They eat better on Earth too.
Yeah, they do. But of course, things go awry as always. She turns up in this book, and from the get-go, this ain't your Supergirl. This is pretty much someone who's out there giving it all, busting chops about, I'm a woman, I can do everything better than you, as you'd expect from the 70s. Let's see, this is from I don't know where it's from, actually. I'll have to double check this. You can get this. I'll double check the time on
1976. It says it right up on the top.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, apologies. There you go. 76. £75. This will cost you for this bad boy, or $900 if it's a 9.6 in America. I have this copy. It's probably a 4, so that's that makes it a $65 book that I own. So there you go. Just saying. This is just standard fare for the era. Nothing major happens. Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, what I was surprised is that she doesn't appear until the last like 3 pages of the book, 3 or 4 pages.
And wow, what an
So
impression! Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, she
it
is.
was yeah, and then and then of course page 2 you realize that she's Supergirl, but they call her Power Girl, and
Oh
I was
no,
yeah,
yeah,
and
cool.
you're like, oh, my Supergirl doesn't look like that.
Indeed. The story around her rather ample. Is that the word we're saying? Ample? Is that, can I say
Mm,
ample?
sure, yes.
Ample bosom like area. Um, so the rumor, this is just a rumor. Please don't sue me. Thanks very much. All right. The goss on this is that artist Wally Wood disliked having to draw Power Girl for the super feminist that she was back in the 70s. So as a means to be passive aggressive about it, kept drawing her boobs bigger and bigger every time you drew her, and nobody stopped him.
That sounds like so outlandish that it's probably true,
Right.
but it's believable.
Well, look at these two panels. It most certainly is. Yeah,
Yes.
they've got. But anyways, that you think that was it? That's pretty bog standard fare, right?
Yeah.
Supergirl, Earth 2, yada yada, job's done, everything's hunky dory. However, that said, the powers that be couldn't last. They were like, no, that's not good enough because we already have a Supergirl. We don't need
Well,
a second Supergirl.
wasn't the Ret-con was post crisis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. And they made her, even post crisis, after Supergirl had been killed, we have this book. This is Power Girl #1. It's a 4-part miniseries. This I couldn't find a UK price for it at all. Every price I had was imported from the States. So go collect this. Have this as a $75 book. Don't ask me why. Written by Paul Cooperberg, arts by Rick Holberg, inks by Anne Starr, letters by Bob Piranha. I've said that wrong. And colors by Juliana Ferrier. And this is from 1988. And this is the retcon. This is the dodgy retcon that I was pretty much talking about. You have a character who makes perfect sense. All right. In the 60s, 70s, you had Earth 1, Earth 2. All right. So you had an Earth 1 Flash and an Earth 2 Flash. Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. You had an Earth 1 Green Lantern and an Earth 2 Green Lantern. Agreed?
Agreed.
All right. You had, don't even get me started about Black Canary. Should have picked her. That would have been complicated.
There you go.
So you have Black Canary and you have Black Canary. So then, why did they decide that when they had such a perfect little origin already in place for a character who is essentially Supergirl, did they have to then redo it and make her Atlantean?
Yeah, I have no idea. There was the only thing I could think of is the whole Golden Age, Silver Age kind of settings with the Justice Society, where everything in Earth 2 happened in World War II, right? They never in the Earth 2 stories, they never really did any kind of modern day type stories. Everything when you were in Earth 2 was, the Nazis versus everything, blah 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 blah. And
Degaton.
right. So Power Girl, when she first appears, it's World War II still, right? So now you're in the 80s and you're introducing Power Girl, 1988. What are you gonna do? So you can't have her be Supergirl. Plus Supergirl's dead in this continuity, right? But didn't they introduce a new Supergirl over in Superman? It was she was like some kind of a clone.
Oh, that was back. That was later on. That was
Later than 88.
That was yeah. Way
It
later.
would have been 91, 91, 92
Yeah,
probably.
you talk about the Matrix character.
Yes, exactly. So so maybe that was lying in wait. Maybe they didn't want her to be Supergirl at this point. So
yeah, it really bugs me. I mean, this book again, it's all right. The art's okay. It kind of makes a little bit of sense, but then we get like the revised origin of who she is, and this sticks all the way through. You know, we recently looked at Justice League 50, Justice League Europe 50, which again was another stinker that I picked.
right.
And she was still Atlantean in that. So I don't know, man. To me, it just makes common sense.
So they didn't fix her. They didn't fix that origin story until the New 52, right?
Just before the New 52.
Okay.
So it's just terrible. I mean, she flies in this. Atlanteans don't fly.
They swim, right?
Yeah. I just don't get it. This is such a bad retcon. The book itself, yeah, it's all right. It is what it is.
She's got the 80s hair going on, though.
Well, yeah, she has got the 80s hair. And the uniform is just basically an 80s leotard.
Very true.
Yeah, no boob window there. It's just a leotard. I don't know. For me, this is a retcon gone wrong. Definitely. I'm glad to put it back to being Earth 2, the lost survivor of Earth 2, and that was it. Job done. So there you go. That's my take. Your thoughts?
Oh, I mean, you know how I think about 70s DC still being stuck in the Silver Age, and I kind of thought that that first story that we looked at, kind of the same thing. You know, it's really kind of that formula that DC used forever, and they were a bit late catching up to Marvel at that point. So in the late 70s, even though that first story was written by Jerry Conway,
Yeah.
who left Spider-Man to come write that stuff over here.
That stuff. How disparaging.
Well, yeah. What are you gonna do? So
there is a we should pick this for controversy as well. So there is some controversy about Jerry Conway and Power Girl.
Oh, let's hear it.
All right, okay, right. So Jerry Conway leaves Marvel, goes to work for DC, right? Where he co-creates or creates Power Girl. Happy with that so far?
Yes.
I might have my timings out a little bit wrong here, but the essence is still the same. Marvel, annoyed that they think that Power Girl is a riff of Power Man,
Okay.
decide to do the same sort of thing and bring back Wonder Man, who they want DC to think is a different riff on Wonder Woman. Yeah. Or the other way around. DC think that Marvel's taking the Mickey with Wonder Man, and then they create Power Girl as a go against Power Man.
I'll have to look up and find out when they brought back Wonder Man, because I kind of feel like it was like 1975.
Well, I was thinking more of the dude in the red jacket. Your favorite Wonder Man?
That's my favorite Wonder Man costume, of course.
Yeah, cool,
Yeah.
cool. So there is a little bit of controversy on there. I think what I do find amazing, I know it's outside the remit of the show, is that Power Girl is still used by DC to advertise stuff, but she's not in the book. So come on, DC, get put your fingers out, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So there you go. Okay, there you go. There's our 3 books. Before we disappear, Mrs. H has just sent me a screenshot of someone playing a quiz show. I don't know if you guys have it over in the States. It's called The Chase. And basically you get options of questions, right? And this person, I don't know if you can see that there. Can you see that?
Yeah, right? Who is that?
So this contestant has been asked, which superhero got his powers after being accidentally hit by a gamma bomb at a nuclear research facility? Now, the options she has to choose are A, Doctor Strange, B, The Flash, or C, The Incredible Hulk.
Hmm.
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 Who could it have possibly been?
Well, this contestant quite erroneously picks the Flash.
Yeah. His gamma powered speed force.
Let's not get there. Let's not get there. And on a separate aside, there's a book out, makes it a textbook, like a kid's book. And it's like what would heroes do? It's like to teach you morals and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's like what would Spider-Man do? What would Captain America do? What would Thor do? And there's a one that says what would Hulk do? And I said to my wife, surely to God, if every page does not have Smash on this, it's wrong.
Right. Right. Hulk would smash. That's the answer.
Yeah. When confronted with someone who is picking on you, what would Hulk do? Smash. Yeah.
That's a kind of an interesting Hulk recon that we never talked about was when they brought back Grey Hulk and had him be Mr. Fix-It. That was kind of a to the demand of no one, right? Because no one really remembered. Did anybody remember that he was gray for the first 2 issues and then turned green?
Well, as it goes, do you think that people like a creator like Peter David is capable of thinking so far out of the box to make that work?
Hmm.
You know, because
Yeah.
Mr. Fix-It was popular for ages. And
Yeah.
is that the first time they've used the idea that the Hulk can be different personas? Because that's been like part of Al Ewing's shtick for ages, hasn't it? The fact that Green Hulk is like the child Hulk, and then you get like serious Hulk, and then you get so
Yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah. But I like Mr. Fix-It. I thought it was canny. I used to. I love the.
I did like I think Peter David had several good ideas on Hulk that actually raised he was just trying to raise readership, right?
Yeah.
So try to keep the character interesting. He did his job, kept the character interesting for a while.
I think Peter David's a little bit of an unsung hero, to be fair, for Marvel, because I mean, did a decent run, had a decent little run with Spider-Man, Hulk, who's been great. His X Factor book was brilliant.
Yes.
So fair enough, he could be a little bit like samey after a while, but like so could everybody. That's But I like Peter David. I think he's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
I like his newer stuff too. He's one of the writers that they bring back to Marvel to write old 80s stuff.
Yeah. What's he is it the
Maestro.
Symbiote?
He's doing Maestro right now.
Symbiote Spider-Man
and Symbiote Spider-Man. Yep.
Yep. That's cool.
So I like
excellent.
I like it.
Yeah.
To get totally out of the timeline that we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, Symbiote Spider-Man. Yeah, I know that was a.
They're current stories about stories in the timeline, about characters in our timeline. So
yeah, and that was a fun Spider-Man era. Yeah, so
it was.
I was in my local comic book shop yesterday and managed to pick up some bits and bobs. They've got a nice little run of Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man that I may have to take off their hands. So
there you go. If you can get him on the cheap.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Right, there you go. That's it for this week. We'll be back in a fortnight with some more old-timer books. Until then, do not forget the UCPN and all the different shows you've got, including The Professor.
No Prize Podcast, all about Marvel Comics, the MCU, and the shows on Disney Plus. Check out Moon Knight. It's really good.
There you go. And of course, don't forget to check out MPP's sister show, The Definitive Crusade, which is on alternate Wednesdays, which is everything about the DC universe. All right. And as I mentioned earlier, for all you Marvel fans, check out Outside the Panels for that Carla Pacheco interview that is out this week. There you go.
I'll be checking it out.
So I'm honest. So there you go. Professor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Machine. Pleasure as always.
Excellent. All right. And 13th, we will see you next time, or with
Yes.
with a different avatar. Hopefully, we do not want to see Night Nurse as your picture. All right, that's it. We're done for a show. Adios.
Peace.